Middle-aged men, what were some things that happened to your body in your 20s that made you say, that's probably nothing, but it was not? I thought I was finally getting that butterfly in your stomach feeling every once in a while. But it was just my heart deciding to beat how it wants, not how it should. The heart wants what the heart wants. Butthole started hurting at age 24. Figured it was just a stubborn hemorrhoid. Got worse over the course of a year. One day I took a shit and had to go lay down for 20 minutes to recover from the pain. Decided to immediately go to urgent care after. Diagnosis perianal Crohn's disease. My friends always joke I'm an asshole, but now I'm a rotten asshole. Back injury while lifting some gear in the military. Actually a lifetime of debilitating pain and limitations. Feel your pain, man. Literally. I was USAF security forces. Who knew running around with an 80 pounds ruck on your back and shitty general issue combat boots would cause long-term damage. Went to a chiropractor and he basically said my lower back was just one giant mass of knots. I always sprung for non-issue boots, but after 10 years in the army and a bunch of deployments, there are days my knees crack, pop and ache for a while after first getting out of bed. Body armor, combat load of ammo, ruck with food, camelback, and at my first duty station I was stupid enough to think it would be awesome to be the squad machine gunner. Dumbest mistake ever. Why the hell did I start reading this? I'm now convinced I have days left of my life. Take care of your back. You will not listen to this but you should. One day you will do something mundane in a slightly awkward position that shouldn't normally be any problem, and it will feel like someone snuck up behind you and blasted you with a shotgun. Besides lifting properly, what can you do to take care of your back? For me it's a few things. Slow down and think about how I lift, or carry or do something strenuous. Gym. Specifically deadlifts, and core work. Core every day. I have some other specific / weird exercises I do as well, if people are interested. Warm up for even mundane shit. If I'm going to chuck a football around I do shoulder circles then short toss then throw harder and farther. I never throw as far or hard as I can anymore. I'm going to take your question literally. I realized a bunch of hair falling out, so I thought this is it. I'm going bald. There's going to be probably nothing left. But it stopped. I have less hair now, but I'm not bald. You just gave about 50% of us hope, lol. Me eye roll. I just started wearing a hat now, so it doesn't look weird later when I suddenly start wearing a hat all the time but it just kinda stopped. My hair is also kinda thick, so that is on my side as well. I started to forget minor things. Now 7 years later I have written my will and am preparing for the worst. Shit man. Sorry. I did professional marching band in my teens and early 20s, 10 years of dedicating 10 hours a day, practicing difficult and highly athletic shows in the hot summer sun. Thing is, we didn't know enough to worry about being in the sun for that long so consistently at that young an age without sunscreen. Cut to 10 years later, and 2 strange freckles appeared on my forehead, and 1 on my shoulder. Skin cancer? Didn't even want to type out those 2 words for fear of waking the slumbering dragon. It's so crazy. My friends in Florida are constantly tanned and red drunk on boats all the time. Yes, but they live in Florida. They'll die from being hit by a drunk driving alligator that was heading to family court before they have a chance to get cancer. I'd be more worried about Florida man honestly. My right ball started hurting. Doctor told me it was probably from ibuprofen. Years later, after it never went away entirely and got a lot worse, I found out I had a hernia. I was probably the happiest hernia patient in the world because I had myself convinced it was something way worse. My right ball started hurting. Doctor told me it was probably from ibuprofen. Huh. What's the link between ibuprofen and testicle pain? What do you mean? How do you crush the pill? Well, I wasn't really symptomatic, but I wish I could tell 20-year-old me to stop eating like shit, because 42-year-old me has high cholesterol and diabetes. My early 20s is a mixture of bad sleeping habits, drug use, and eating shit junk food. My late 20s is me becoming a health freak and trying to undo 5 to 10 years of irresponsible personal health, so I don't get diabetes or something by 40 to 50. Thanks for reinforcing me in my decision. The diet I eat is so much better than just a few years ago. I'm sorry you're going through a very difficult condition like being diabetic. My grandmother was diabetic and me going into nursing did not want to experience it firsthand. The lucky thing is most of the damage done in your 20s by bad habits can still be reversed fairly easily, as long as you actually change those bad habits. Keep it up. I was leading the same life. Now in my 30s I can run circles around 20-year-old me. Carrying 80 pounds of photo gear in my rucksack, was shooting from one knee. When I went to stand, my knee did something that felt vaguely like somebody breaking celery in half. I was so amped up I didn't feel any pain. Figured it's nothing. Narrator, it wasn't nothing. Yes. For the love of God protect your knees, because you are going to pay for not doing that for the rest of your life. Yay for semi-permanent limbs. A sensitive left testicle which seemed slightly higher than the other one. Casually brought it up to the doctor when I was there to get a wart removed on my finger. The doctor handled my testicle. The doctor invited a student to handle my testicle. The student invited another student to handle my testicle. They sent me to get an ultrasound, and she handled my testicle. A urologist handled my testicles. After much testicle handling, I found out I had testicular cancer. They took the testicle 9 months later. Cancer came back, and I got chemotherapy. I'm 3 months cancer free, but moral of the story is, don't be afraid to let people handle your testicles if something doesn't seem right. Same story for me. Found a lump on my right testicle when I was 24. Promptly ignored it for a while. Wasn't in a good place financially or insurance wise, and 24-year-old me was able to rationalize it away. At 27, the testicle was a lumpy mess, the size of a lime. Still ignored it. During a move, I lifted a pretty heavy TV which led to considerable back pain. Debilitating back pain, which I couldn't ignore. Saw a doctor, got some pain meds, and a cortisone shot. Didn't mention the lumpy lime testicle. Couple weeks later, was watching her and a character on the show was in the air with shortness of breath and pain. He was smart enough to mention a lump on this testicle, and x-rays showed tumors all throughout his chest. Saw my doctor later the same week, asked if, hypothetically, a lumpy testicle could have an impact on my back pain. Doctor handled my testicle and wanted to send me for surgery the next day. I wasn't mentally prepared for that, but did have the entire right side removed a couple weeks later. Scans showed 8 soft ball-sized tumors throughout my chest cavity. One was pressed onto my kidney, preventing it from draining, which caused the back pain. Lots of chemo and every negative side effect from treatment, but I managed to live through it. It's been 20 years, and I've got 2 children, and I'm cancer free. Check yourself early and often, and don't ignore it. Edit. Thank you for the award. I got this. Was 23 when I noticed a mole on the shoulder, much bigger and odd looking than I previously remembered. I looked a photo from 6 months earlier when I was at the beach and had my shirt off. In the photo it was barely noticeable, but 6 months later it was the size of an eraserhead. Went to the dermatologist who immediately did a biopsy. Malignant melanoma at 23. A young person's disease. Served in the army during Iraq. Patrolled with a high-powered jamming radio antenna next to my head. The warning label said to stay clear, but the army was like sure, install it next to the gunner's head. Seemed like that's probably nothing. Hell, in perspective we were issued asbestos gloves to change hot gun barrels that fired too many depleted uranium rounds. What's a radio gonna do to me? Well, years go by, our doctor finds an extremely rare skull tumor the size of a ping pong ball growing right where the warning label sat. Sounds like you might be entitled to some money. Get your suing shoes on. Unless they can prove that the radio caused it, the VA will probably deny any claim. They almost always deny claims at first anyway. In civil court the military has a tendency to back down in cases of things like putting a warning label on something and then just straight up ignoring the label at the potential cost of a soldier's health. All he needs to do is get documentation or at least get some of his buddies who remember that shit. I was often so tired that I would fall asleep standing up, in the shower, etc. Over a decade later I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Got any similar examples? Leave it in the comments below.